The Bay Area's rock station, 107.7 The Bone.
So, Gene, I guess one of the first things I wanted to ask you is, I was talking to Brendan last night, and he said that one of his favorite stories is how you began playing drums. Wasn't really with drums.
Oh yeah, a world champion air drummer. I was just an absolute king at it, and that's a well-worn story now. But just when I was a kid, I would just sit in my room and play along to all my favorite records on the air drums, and I just found that I had a really good capacity for drumming for doing this. And I preach air drumming is an amazing way to learn drums. I mean, you're mimicking everything that you're going to be doing on a kit anyway. So, and of course my air drum kit was huge. It was just gargantuan. It was so giant. So so air drumming is the coolest way to learn drums, and that's
you had like the surround Neil Peart kit.
Oh, totally, total Neil Peart. He was my biggest influence, and I had a kit just like his, and it was gigantic, and I even had stuff behind my head.
So when you first started out, was Neil Peart one?
Absolutely.
Did you have like a slew of drummers, or one or two that really hit you?
Well, Peter Criss was my first. I'm total Kiss baby. I was 9 and 10 when they were getting big and huge and all that sort of stuff. So Neil Peart was my next big dude, and he was a big influence. And Tommy Aldridge and Cozy Powell with all the older style of double bass. And then when the new wave of British heavy metal hit, and all the European sounding bands, even if they weren't European, like bands like Anvil, Rob Reiner was always a big influence, and Rob Wacko Hunter from the band Raven, other gargantuan influences. So I just always liked it fast and heavy, and if you had double bass, I was really into your songs. Is
there anybody you feel like you really got influenced by that didn't get much due, that people just don't seem to get into?
There's a guy from Los Angeles, and his name is Brian O'Brien. The man's so nice they named him twice. And he's from a band called A La Carte, and they were a band that used to play they used to like headline over Van Halen and all of the LA cock rock bands. These guys were the headliners for all those bands as they were coming up. All the Motley Crues and Great Whites and Dawkins and Rats and all those bands. But these guys were a real they were a boogie band. They weren't like hair metal or anything. They were just really awesome boogie. You can check them out on YouTube. There's just find A La Carte on there. Check out the song Fairview Boogie or Old Number 7 or songs like that. And their drummer Brian O'Brien was a huge influence on me, and he was the very first guy that I ever, when you're 13 years old and you're going to clubs, you think if a band is playing doesn't matter a club, you don't know any better, you think they're a rock star, and I actually met him, and he came over to my house and played my drums, and we've become friends over the years. But he was a huge influence, absolutely. Like, his style was just really tasty and stuff. So that was an unsung hero that I was super into. And there's my thoughts on my early days. I'm sure they're chock full of lots of unsung drumming heroes.
When you first started getting into being a musician full time, did you have a gig, like a day job in between, or have you been playing drums full time for like 30 years almost?
Well, I've had pretty much like 2 jobs my entire life, and those were both in the 80s. So I haven't had to work since like 89. And
what were they? Were they like really bad day jobs, or were just easy?
Well, one, the funny one was I used to work in a nail salon. I was just a receptionist, but my folks, and my sister is a world champion manicurist. She was the second best manicurist in the world for so many years. Like, they have world championships for this sort of thing. And my sister would always take second place. And she would win all these other regional competitions, like the nationwide ones. Like, she's won the nationwide competition a few times, but when it comes to the world, she always took second place. And so at least that always made it really easier to explain to people, like, rather than saying, my sister's the best manicurist in the entire world, she got a championship. It's like, if I tell them she's the second best, which she was, it just seems to have a little more impact. But they had a nail salon, and it was just an ultimate gig for a teenager, because all I did was just write letters and interviews, like do correspondence, fanzine interviews, and do interviews on the phone all day, and answer the phone, hello, Rainbow Nails. And the word got out that Gene worked in a nail factory. Like, people were thinking I was like pounding nails, and everybody thought it was the hardest job ever. It's like, gee, you're fucking hard. And no, it was a nail salon, actually. And like, I remember when there was a Kerrang article on us, and there's the thing on the cover. I remember Doug Pinnick from King's X was on the cover, and then had a little thing, Dark Angel, can nail beauticians play thrash?
Ooh,
and
outed.
I'm not. I can't do nails. I can answer a phone though. So, but that was my last job. So, and that was like I say in the '80s. So I've been pretty fortunate that I've been able to. Well, making a living is really tough at this, and obviously you have to sacrifice a ton of things, and so I just sacrificed pretty much everything to do this. And I've always led a pretty Spartan life. Like, no matter what town I'm living in, for whatever project I'm doing, I never keep too much stuff with me, and I definitely don't keep anything that I can't just leave behind. So that's pretty much how I led a gigantic portion of my career and my life and all that sort of stuff. Just, pack light.
Very nomadic.
Yeah, very, totally.
So about the last 15 years, you've really been known as the guy who can seamlessly go from band to band. You have this amazing talent of being able to get behind the kit with any group of musicians.
Oh, awesome.
And bam. Mm-hmm. It's like you've been in the band the whole time, and everybody I've ever talked to is floored by this.
Oh, awesome.
And I'm just curious, is there a process that you go through? Is it kind of does it just happen? You sit down and you just start playing, or?
Well, one thing I've always tried to do with any band I'm with is I've always tried to serve the songs. What every individual song, serve their approach. Like, for instance, like with Dark Angel, that's pretty, brutal thrash metal, and we tried to be as brutal as we could, come up with the coolest beats we could. With Death, it was a much more free-form style, so I would try to suit, whatever Chuck was looking for. And with Strapping, those drums weren't the same as Death, so like any sort of Devon material that I would do, I would just try to serve the songs. And being a mimic is pretty easy, and you start finding your own style within your mimicry of the band's style. And I'm a product of this is all I've ever wanted to do. It's been my dream since I was 11, so I'm very fortunate that I get to live my dream and all that. So I'm such a music fan that if somebody has this kind of approach to their music, it's like, hey, I know what you're talking about. I get it. So I guess if you want to do what I've done and just have a stable life in this industry, I suppose you better learn how to be malleable to other styles and be able to fit seamlessly in. And I've always wanted the bands. I've always thought it's better for the bands, and also I guess for myself, if rather than have, okay, well, there's Testament with obviously Gene Hoglan on drums. There's Strapping Young Lad with obviously Gene Hoglan on drums. I would like to, why not be a chameleon? It's way more fun. It's a little more selfless to serve the song than just go, hey, check out how many fills I can do, and check out all this double bass I can do, and cram them into situations where they don't belong. I think that would be kind of selfish. So, you just try to serve the music as best as possible. And
as a fan already, that just kind of makes sense.
Sure.
Who was the hardest for you to fit into, or just to pick up? Because it's almost like a physical retraining, right? To pick a new band.
Each time, yeah. I would say one of the bigger challenges that I had at first was I did a tour in 2007 with Unearth, and we played here at the Warfield. That was about my third gig or something with them. And they have a style that I just had yet to play in any band. A lot of that choppy double bass stuff. Stuff like that. And I'm like, wow, okay, well that's stuff I haven't done. So we got 1 day to rehearse, and I had to pick it up pretty quick. So it was all that was a real challenge. Believe it or not, Unearth, absolutely. And Fear Factory, doing a lot of Raymond's earlier stuff, like songs like Zero Signal from Fear Factory, that's a drumming, outstanding, godly drum song. From the construction of it, from the writing, the composition of it, Raymond did such an amazing job on, for instance, that song that I remember going up to him and telling him when this gig was starting to happen, I was like, man, Raymond, I can't play your stuff. What are you talking? Because I'm thinking like songs like Zero Signal and off the Demanufacture record, and we'll play it tonight or whatever. And that's a really crazy song on the drums. And I remember when I first heard it, I was like, man, this guy's got it. He knows what he's doing. A lot of us drummers wish we wrote that. So here I am playing it, 15, 17 years later or whatever. And that one was kind of like, ugh, I got to really wrap my head around that one. And every night I have to really wrap my head around that song. So kudos to you, Raven. Nice work.
107.7 The Bone.
Streaming online at 1077thebone.com.